All right. It is 5 o'clock. Are we good with streaming? Amazing. Okay, so I'm calling this special meeting to order. My name's Kat Martinez. I am the chair, and we're going to start out first. Just welcome to everyone. It's so exciting to see you all. I don't know that we're as nervous as you, but we're really nervous too. We're excited for you. We're glad you're here. And Gio's going to start us off. He's our city attorney and talk us through the process.
With the city council's indulgence, city council's indulgence, I would like to take off my mask. Otherwise, it will appear I'm becoming emotional as I talk. Welcome tonight. This is the time and place set to fill the vacancy on the city council for District 5. As you know, this vacancy was created when Mayor Hales was elected mayor. He was previously the former District 5 city council member. He resigned his position on the city council January 4th, and on January 5th, public notices went out of the vacancy. The city received applications from 12 candidates, and all those candidates are here tonight. The deadline to apply was January 20th, and on January 21st, all the applications that were submitted were sent to the city council. So they've had your applications for about 11 days. They know a little bit about you. I can't get much closer. All right. Is that better? Okay, great. State law requires that the city council interview each candidate in an open public meeting, and so the interviews will take place now. There are 4 interview questions. Each city council member will ask one question. Councilmember Cotter will ask the first question, and each of the candidates will give her or his answer to the first question before moving to the next city council member and the next question. In order to complete the process tonight, timely, we have asked that you will limit your answers to 1 minute and 45 seconds. If you look to your right, you'll see Jennifer Kennedy, who's the executive director of the city council. She will be timing this on her iPad. She'll give you a message when 30 seconds is left. You'll hear the bell or whatever it is that goes off when the time's up, and we'd like you to conclude when you hear that, if not sooner. Here's where it gets a little complicated. It's not that complicated, so let me make it really simple. For the city council, if you focus on the question that's asked and the answers in your notes, that's all you need to know. For the candidates, to your left is Patty, sitting next to the wall. She is an assistant to the city council, and she will direct you when to come up to the pulpit. You'll come up in groups of 3. Because there are so many, and to move the process through, we've split you into alphabetically to begin with, but then into groups of 3 by color. The color has no significance except to help us get this moving and move along. So if you'll listen to her, she'll let you know when to come up. When you're finished answering the question, if you'll go back to your chair, that would be appreciated. The complication, it's not a big deal, but it's something I'll explain. We didn't want the first person to answer each question first, so that's why it's in 3s. So the first 3 will answer the first question, then we'll go from there alphabetically. Those first 3 will then go to the back of the line, so to speak, for the next question. And that's how we'll rotate. We want you to sit in the same chair, but when you come up again, you'll be the last 3 to answer the next question. That's how that'll go. Let's see. So for purposes of the candidates, focus on the question. Don't worry about the process. Patty will let you know when to speak. When the interviews are over, there will be a vote. And I'm going to wait until that time to go into how we're going to vote and what that means. So let's go to that point to where just before the vote, and I will explain further at that point.
Thank you. That was a great explanation. And now we will start with the questions. So if the first 3 want to come up, and Pam, I believe you're our first question asker when they are ready.
Thank you for coming. Why are you interested in serving as a city council member?
Good evening. My name is Craig Casper. Thank you. My name is Craig Casper, and I first want to thank everybody else I think this speaks volumes of who we are as a community, that there was 12 people on a relatively short notice that wanted to serve their community. To answer that question, I've been a Murray resident for 37 of my 44 years. And like everyone else, I'm sure, I love the city. It's molded me into the man I am today through the schooling, through my children going to school now, and being able to volunteer in programs at the school, coaching, basketball, baseball, football. I want to be able to give back to this community that's given me so much. I believe that there's nothing wrong with Murray. I believe we're going in the right direction, and I think you guys have provided great leadership doing so. There's just a few tweaks I think that need to be made moving forward to make sure that we stay in that direction.
Thank you.
I'm Jeff Collette. I'm interested because, as Craig said, I've lived in Murray for 37 years myself also. 7 of my children attended Murray High School, and they all attended Hillcrest Junior High and Hillcrest Elementary. One graduated from Murray High School with her associate's degree because of Murray High's wonderful concurrent enrollment program. I had a couple of children that were police cadets. I have a couple of children that played basketball for Murray and went on to play for the University of Utah. And so I too want to give back to Murray. I'm not really sure I want to be on the city council, but I feel an obligation to do that. I feel like, good people should step up. And since the city council should be a citizen council, I don't think it should be professional people that are professional politicians that should be on the city council. So I'm stepping up to do that. The other thing is that, as Muhammad Ali said, service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. And I think that's why I'd like to serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Laura Crapo, and I'm interested in running for this position because I love Murray also. My kids have all gone through school here, but background, I wrote the Mill Creek Township News for 10 years before they incorporated, so I got a good understanding of what they needed to do and what was important for that community. And so that's kind of my background there. I also like these two. I want to give back because this is a great place and it's so unique. Murray has its own school district and everything so consolidated that you get to know the parents, and it's just a great feeling here because it's a good community feel. So that's why I'm interested in being the 5th district council representative. And I think that's all I wanted to say, but I appreciate this opportunity, and thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's George Hamer. We kind of already had that question once already on our application, so I don't want to reiterate necessarily what I've already said because you guys already probably read what I've said. But to expand on it a little bit, I think that one of the reasons why is because I want the community to feel like they belong. You know, in our community, in our world right now, belonging is a big thing. Kids have a tough time belonging. They're having a hard time trying to figure out where they belong and how they belong. And I think as a city council member that I can maybe help by, being able to have that voice for those who want to feel like they belong to Murray City. And to belong to something doesn't just mean that you live there. It means that you actually have a home there, and that you belong, and that your voice matters, and that the things that you have to say really mean something. And to have somebody on the council that can represent that for the people. We get to come to council meetings and present our voices and stuff, but we don't necessarily always get to ask questions, where the council members do get to ask those questions. And so I think as a council member, I can represent those people, and I can make sure that their questions are answered and that we can provide the best, for our community and make them feel like they belong to Murray. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Jim Harland. I've been living in Murray with my family for over 30 years. We moved here in the early 90s. Shortly thereafter, I became involved in volunteer service with the community. I started out by being a member of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for 9 years, moving from there to the Planning and Zoning Commission for another 9 years. From there, I became a hearing officer, and I've served in that capacity for about 7 years. Members of my family and I have always been keen on volunteer service in serving our community, trying to make it a better place to live. Another example is I serve as a volunteer for Canyon School District as a volunteer classroom participant. I think through my experience, my volunteer experience, my work experience in Parks and Recreation, which expands almost 38 years, working for a county, 2 cities, a state, and the federal governments over that period of time. I've gained enough experience that I can apply that to decisions that the City Council makes and make a contribution to further our community and make it a continued success. And with 30 seconds left, I'll surrender my time.
Madam Hawk, and I'm an imposter here. I didn't go to Murray. So I don't know if I'm really qualified anymore because of that, but my wife did. And so she graduated from Murray High, and I remember when we were first dating and first looking at houses, she told me about how great Murray was, and I laughed at her, kind of sitting there thinking, yeah, everybody talks about their hometown in some sort of nostalgic fashion. And as I listened to her, she finally convinced me that we'd move in here. And as we moved in, I was amazed at the community as I started getting to know my neighbors, how great it was. And then as I started to teach around here, and I got to know more in just the neighborhood around me, I got to see more and more of the Murray citizens. I became more and more impressed with the quality of people that we have here. And as I started to volunteer and other things, I was just impressed with Murray. And it has driven me to make this not just a city that I was happy with, but something that other people can be proud of. Not just those multi-generational Murray families, but somebody outside of our community who wants to come in and live here, that we can make it this a community where it's about everybody and that everybody can belong. Those who've lived in Murray for 50 years and those who just want to be here and feel like they belong to something important. So I think that that's why I want to be here, is to make this a community of belonging where everybody has a place and they can feel that. And I feel like we can do that in the City Council as we pass resolutions to recognize things and other things, that this becomes a means to help others feel like they're part of this community.
This feels like speed dating. and I feel like I must be in love because my heart's beating so fast. My name's Linda Horn, and I'm a lifelong Murray resident, as many of these people are, and a mom of 4 Murray High School graduates. But my real claim to fame is that once upon a time I was a police cadet, and I used to work in this very building, transferring police records to microfiche in the basement. So I feel like I've come full circle in life. For 17 years, I worked as an educator teaching middle school and serving as a school administrator, and I can't think of any better training for City Council and problems that you must wrestle with than dealing with emotional 13-year-olds and their sometimes equally emotional parents, and rightly so often. Currently, I work for the state of Utah as the governor's mansion manager, and this is a non-political position, but affords me some fun opportunities to have a front row seat to the challenges that government faces. Volunteer opportunities have given me some insights into the plight of marginalized people in our community, refugees, immigrants, and homeless, and those who are just kind of scraping by. And I believe Murray at its best is a community and neighbors taking care of each other. I really believe that. And I also think that, or I believe that local municipalities have a greater impact on the day-to-day lives of individuals than state or federal government, because municipalities are the ones collecting the garbage, making sure your water's clean and your power is on, and
time.
Is that it?
That's
Sorry.
it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name is Gary Hirekasi, and I'm happy to be here with you this evening. I chose to apply for this position because I have been called for my whole life to serve. So when I was young, I served at No More Homeless Pets in Utah, trying to get people there forever, fur baby. Then as I went to elementary school and in the Boy Scouts, I started volunteering more at retirement facilities and rest homes to brighten elderly days as we would go sing Christmas carols for them. Since then, I went on to high school, where I did various different service projects and have really tried to impact the community. And I saw this as an opportunity to have a greater impact and to be able to see Murray continue to blossom, as it is the heart of what I see as the heart of Salt Lake County and the heart of the state of Utah. And so I want to be part of that, and I want to help Mayor Hales and the rest of the council to see it thrive and grow. And my daughters are here tonight. They had to step out there being a little rambunctious, but I newer to Murray, been here 4 years now, and I live in the annexed area of Murray, and I think that it's important that we have representation from that area on the council, and so I would love the opportunity. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Audra Kasparian, and when I learned about this vacancy in the exact place where I just moved in a year ago, I thought, oh my goodness, this would be a really cool opportunity to give back, like everyone has said, and to serve my community that has been home to me for almost 30 years, which I cannot believe. But for almost 30 years, I've worked and lived. I live here just recently, but then I was on the Murray and Midvale line for over 17 years. So, but Murray has always been my home for almost 30 years. I was hired by Richard Tranter in the mid-90s to teach at Murray High School, where I served for 24 years. I know Murray, I know its families, I know its history, I know its culture, and I would love to give back in this capacity. It's a very different capacity than being a teacher on the west side of State Street. You're over here on the east side, but I think you're going to move pretty soon, so it's kind of fun. But I thought, what a great opportunity for me to learn and grow in a different capacity in a community that I love, that has been home for almost 30 years, like I say. Some things I can bring to the table. I've had just an incredible career working with families and learning a lot, learning leadership skills. I've served on all kinds of committees and capacities, working with the Arts and Parks, with Mary Ann Kirk, working with the Chamber of Commerce, with the Murray Rotary International. We've done local service and we've done international service, and I would just love to have an opportunity to give back and to serve in a different way. I bring diversity to the table. I speak fluent Spanish, and I've worked with immigrant and refugee groups my entire career. And so I'm very comfortable. I'm a world traveler. I have been all over the world. I'm very comfortable talking to marginalized or to any group that is somewhat different in some capacity. And that's one of my greatest strengths I have, is to reach out to those people. And right now, our communities are becoming so diverse all across Utah. And it's time really to see, okay, how can we meet their needs and include them in what we're doing. So thank you very much.
My name is Keith Snore. I'm a lifelong resident of the city. I married a Murray girl. That was her maiden name, and she was born in the Cottonwood Maternity Hospital, as I was. And we've raised our 5 children in this community. I've served as an employee for the city twice, once as a planner and once as the Economic Development and Redevelopment Director. And I concur with most of what has been said by the previous candidates. Murray's a great place to live. I love it. It's a place that looks out for its neighbors. And I'm happy to be here. I've got boomerang kids that are living with me or have lived with me. So we're going into that multi-generational thing. I'm focusing on the problems that Murray will see in the future. Murray's got, the problems are getting more difficult than they are getting easy. We saw where the Kmart was now becoming units of multifamily. We're going to see those same things where some kind of problems that have to be resolved where Shopco is. We've got problems that are on your agenda further tonight where we're looking at twin homes and things like that. And there's a bunch of things down between the railroad tracks and the I-15 that need to make transition. And that's going to require some real flexibility and some ingenuity on how those problems are solved. I've had 40 years of experience in municipal government and as a consultant to municipalities. I look forward to serving the city as member of Council District Number 5 and bringing my expertise to the table to help solve those problems. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Kate Sturgeon. I can't add a whole lot to what they've all said because, you know, ditto, 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 ditto. But I do have one thing I can add. I've been waiting a decade for this guy to get out of his chair. And so now that he has, I thought I'd throw my hat in the ring. You all have my resume. You know where I've been, what I've done. I think Murray is at a crossroads where in a new administration, there are going to be some interesting and potentially difficult choices to make in the days ahead. I'm up for those choices, adding my expertise and my 2 cents because I'm a very shy person. But Murray's best days are ahead. And it's been a great place to raise my kids. And I just want to see it continue in that vein. And thank you for leaving.
I'm Gary Weston, and I'm close to Mayor Hales where he lives, and I don't thank him for leaving because it's going to be very hard to replace him. I want to thank all of you, first of all, you good people, for all that you have done for Murray City. Now there's 12 of us here that would like to join with you and provide a little bit of our own time and our energy. I and my wife Mary moved into Murray City in July 1969. And we have raised 7 children here. We have buried our youngest one here. Murray City has been very, very good to us for all these years, and I have not had an opportunity to give back in any meaningful way. I would like to do that. I served in 1985 and 1987 in our Planning and Zoning Commission. That wasn't very long, and that wasn't long enough. And I'm a retired attorney. Being retired means I've got a lot of time on my hands and a lot of time that I'm able to give. When I was practicing law, I was the president of a large law firm for 12 years. My responsibility was much like yours is. It was one of reconciliation, understanding, listening, and compromise, trying to keep together people with differing ideas of where we should go and try to make it work. This is the legislative body of Murray City. That's who you are, and you know that as such. Every ordinance that's passed, it's your responsibility. You do everything here to make the city what it is, and it is an unbelievably fantastic community, in which all of us here are very proud to be members and grateful to have the opportunity to be here and say we're part of Murray. Now I'd like to give a little bit. If I had the opportunity to do that, I think I have the ability to do that, but I wouldn't suggest in a minute that I would be able to do it as well as you do. Thank you.
All right, my turn. Go ahead and come up and I'll read the question. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Okay. Why do you feel you are qualified to fill the office of city council member? And please, if you guys need me to repeat the question, just ask, okay? Go ahead.
So why do I feel I'm qualified?
You are qualified to be a city council member.
Okay. Well, I've worked for the city for 27 years, and then I retired. I took that opportunity when I had an opportunity to go and work at Intermountain Healthcare and to pursue my career, another career in accounting instead of being a mechanic. Well, actually, automotive technician. We got to do it right now. So anyways, and so, but I really enjoyed working for Murray City. It was a great place to work. I'll be honest, I wasn't going to ever get rich working for Murray City, but it provided for my family very well. And so I was involved with my job in Murray City, I was a fleet manager. I worked my way up to be the fleet manager. I was involved in city council meetings, with budget hearings, all the stuff that you guys do with trying to figure out how and where the money should be allocated to best, run the city and provide the infrastructure that the city needs to continue to do the things they needed to do. I worked with all the department heads. I know them. I can probably sit here and recite who's in charge of each of the departments if you want, but I don't have enough time. I only got 30 seconds. So, but I worked with them all. They're great people. I'd love to work with them again. I really enjoyed, like I say, what I did with the Murray City. I now work in the accounting department. I know that's a primary thing for the city council is the budget, and to make sure that we balance the budget properly and that the money goes where it needs to go to provide what the citizens need. We have to take care of the city's money. Our residents depend on that.
Good evening. I know you all have my resume in front of you and you've had the opportunity to review it. I think my qualifications stem from my years of experience in working in different agencies, dealing with different situations with employers and people. My volunteer service with the community itself, I think, is what mostly qualifies me for this position. I served on the Parks and Recreation Commission, our board, for 9 years, as I've indicated before. I think the planning and zoning service for 9 years was totally valuable in preparing me for a position of the city council membership. The opportunity to conduct those meetings, I served as a chair twice. We dealt with many complex issues as far as public involvement, people complaining about, not in my backyard, I don't want this to happen. So I'm used to handling public meetings. I'm used to handling volatile citizenry. I understand that probably the best way to deal with that is to be a good listener, understand and be compassionate to what their feelings are so that you can try to help solve their problems. As a hearing officer, I dealt with a number of issues. I've dealt with 35 different hearings over the last 7 years. I've conducted those meetings individually, prepared the reports myself, and dealt with, again, a public meeting process and dealing with public comment and citizenry. Thank you very much.
So I recently completed my second master's degree, and my second one was in American history. And I think it's actually uniquely qualifies me for this position, because the beauty of American history is you cover a wide scope of issues, just like the city council covers a lot. We studied environmental issues, politics. I got into the history of suburbia. So all these issues directly translate into what's going on. So when I'm going to be looking at issues in front of the city council, I'm not looking at just what's happening here, but what's happening historically into other cities and other communities, which also feeds into an ability to research. So as we have issues that come before us as city council, I'm familiar with research and will research the issues. So I'm not just coming unprepared and only reliant upon what's presented before me in those meetings. But I'll also be researching it from a historical perspective and looking at how other communities have dealt with this historically, as well as the issues that are facing ourselves right now. I've also served on the Longview Community Council for 2 terms, so I'm familiar with working in a council process and also working to pass an agenda and working with staff, not just an agenda, but a budget, and working with staff to pass that budget together. Finally, I've been attending meetings with the City Council since September. I know the issues that are before the City Council. I know what we've dealt with over the last few months, and I'm prepared to handle these issues. I'm prepared for the meeting that begins at 7 o'clock tonight, because I know what's happened and what's been presented in the committee of the whole. So I'll be ready for that meeting also.
I don't know that I'm uniquely qualified for this position. I would say that all of these candidates are equally qualified, and so I hope your job tonight is an easy one. Through my positions of teaching and in state government, I've been able to have lots of opportunities to do creative problem solving. And in Murray in particular, I've noticed that there are 5 kind of developing issues. I would say one is growth. That's probably the biggest one. Energy, water, education, and keeping our neighborhoods safe and happy are really high priorities. And inclusion in all of those areas. I'm a creative problem solver, especially in planning and zoning. I've been able to manage budgets. I have lots of experience in historic preservation. And I've worked closely with our Utah Highway Patrol and Salt Lake City Police Departments and understand some of those issues that those officers face and the support that they need in able to keep our community safe. I just feel like this is my time to serve, and I'm happy to do that if you choose me to be a council member.
As I think about qualifications, for me, a couple things come to mind. First and foremost, I'm a certified public accountant, spent 9 years with PricewaterhouseCoopers, the largest accounting firm in the world, where I did audits. I did audit some government contractors, so that gave me a unique perspective into government spending and contracting. I also, after leaving PwC, I went to work at a tech company in Lehigh. So I'm currently a corporate controller where I have to help with budgeting every single year. And that's a really, really important part of what I do. So handling the numbers, looking over the budget, making sure that people stay within their budgets and stopping people from spending when they want to go buy $500,000 kiosks and stuff to put up places. So there's a lot of that, a lot of negotiating that has to go on, and I have a lot of skill with that. In addition, I ran for political office. So back in 2016, I ran to be the Salt Lake County Auditor. And that was a tricky time. And I ran countywide, but I ran in Murray as well. So I was knocking doors, meeting people. So I know a lot of what the issues are, a lot of what people care about. I've also been attending the meetings with each of you and have had a chance to kind of see the issues that District 5 in particular is facing. RC Willie, the new zoning, the new mixed use, that's going to be big hot topics coming up here soon. So I've had a chance to at least start thinking about those issues and researching them myself. So I appreciate your time.
When I see the question, why do you feel qualified to fill the office? I feel like my qualities are what is my greatest strength in filling the office. I am a people person. I've been working with people of all ages and all backgrounds for almost 30 years. And one thing about me is I love to listen. I think I've learned that. I didn't always like to listen. In the beginning, it's a hard skill to develop, but I think over my career, I've been able to develop the idea of just listening to people, especially, of course, the students, and trying to find out what the real issue is. What is the issue? What is it? It's usually not what you think it might be. And so I find that fascinating to be able to talk to people and work those out, think about what the issue is, and then work with them to problem solve and find ways to get through that. I'm highly organized, and I know how to organize big events and how to work with different groups and how to kind of mobilize different groups, bring them together in working through whatever we're working on, whatever issues are at the moment. Problem solving. I enjoy meeting people. That's another strength that I think I have is I have been all over the world, a lot of times by myself, and I've had to learn all the skills that requires to keep yourself safe and also to meet people. And I love to reach out and meet people from all walks of life. And I did mention the diversity piece a little bit earlier. I'm a fluent Spanish speaker and have spent my whole career with people from different backgrounds. And so I'm very comfortable in those realms. And I have the time to spend to, like they talk about, to research the issues and find out what's going on. I know Murray, I've been here for almost 30 years. I stood on the corner at 53rd and State and watched the smokestacks fall, and I've been with the torch, all kinds of things. So I'm just happy to fall in that pattern or that tradition of strong leadership here at Murray. Thank you.
I think you recognize from my biographical information that I've been recognized as a mixed-use expert, which was done right here in Murray with the Fire Clay Project. I've had other experiences that aren't as well known. I worked as a consultant for the U.S. Forest Service, and we did environmental assessment for national national forest oil and gas leasing programs. The upshot of which was some special zoning regulations for underground problems that related to the minerals that were available. And we were dealing with the people who wanted to save all the land for wilderness and those that wanted to develop it for oil and gas. I was happy when we concluded that I got a letter from the forest supervisor that said we did the impossible. We made the oil and gas people happy. We made the conservation people happy. BLM is still fighting that battle today. Those are the kinds of things I've been involved with. I was with West Jordan and South Jordan City. I was the one that got the land acquired for them to build the Jordan River Parkway to extend it past Murray and go to those other cities. So I've had a lot of experience, a lot of it with development. I know it takes time to develop, and time is money. And we've got to be creative so that we can get things done in downtown Murray. Particularly, that's a spot that's going to be a hot spot in the next few years. I'm excited to be part of that, and look forward to working with the city to make that happen. Thank you.
Why am I qualified to be on the council? Everybody knows there are lots of parents of any project, but there's only 5 people that do the work. I've always been one of those 5 people that does the work. I dig into a project, I get information from whatever sources are available. I am not content to just stick with what is presented. I look to see what are the sides. So I try to go into as many avenues of an issue as possible. And you guys have a tough choice tonight because everybody has given outstanding reasons why they are good for the council. Any one of them would be good, but I'd be better.
Bless her heart. All of us in the room know that the most important things that members of the council do, and you've done for so long, is to 1, to listen, 2, to prepare, 3, to discuss, and 4, to make decisions, informed decisions. That is not always easy. Yours is a very contentious position, and you've experienced that from what you've dealt with over the time of your service. It's just that way because everyone sees that the buck literally has to stop here and does stop here. My professional training and my professional experience has had me in a position where I've learned the importance of reconciliation. I've learned the importance of compromise. I've learned how to listen and to listen and to listen. And to understand that whatever somebody is saying at the time is extraordinarily important to that person. So you have to listen carefully, and then you have to come back and make the appropriate inquiries in a way that's respectful of that person's position. When you decided you've learned the best you can, then you work together as a body. The beautiful thing about a council is it's not one person making the decision. You ponder together and you deliberate together, and based on that circumstance, you have the likelihood of coming up with the right decision. And sometimes the decision may not be the one that you personally want, but it's the one that's absolutely best because you trust in what your people on your council are saying and doing. Thank you for your time, and I look forward also, and I don't know if I can be quite as good as she is, but I'm going to work at that.
I'm glad Audra brought up the smokestacks. I climbed those things 6 times. So, my professional experience and professional training includes being a retail sales manager with this Best Buy right here for 4 years, from 2010 to 2014. After that, I went on to be the Member Client Services Director for the National Association of Certified Valuators and Analysts, a CPA guy. You probably know them. Anyway, and as such, both of those positions, budget is a primary responsibility and primary focus. Sales strategies, now, I don't know if there's a lot of selling, maybe I got to sell my ideas to the council, but problem solving, man, you want to talk about some problem solving, deal with an angry person returning a Mac. But you got to listen, and that's been brought up tonight. You have to listen to the problems and hear the person, really hear where they're coming from, and understand what the root cause of that problem is, so that as a body you can come up with the correct solution. That is my background. I currently work for a company called Axion Corporation. We do quality management systems for companies in the aerospace industry, and they are also based right here in Murray. As such, budgeting our marketing dollar and our expenses is another role that I take on for that company. 30 seconds. I don't know, maybe I'll just leave on the, I climb the smokestacks. Thanks.
Hello again. The reason I feel I'm qualified, I've been a financial advisor for 35 years. I work with two of my sons, and working in a family business can be challenging, but we get along really well. We help people plan for retirement, and we help people who are retired live comfortably. We do that by helping them manage their investments, their tax planning, risk management, Social Security, Medicare planning. I've given over 300 seminars and to people, groups as small as 20 and groups of over 250. So I've given out a lot of advice to people over the years to help them make their life comfortable. I've employed many people over the years, and I hold the designations of a chartered financial consultant, a life underwriting training council member, and I'm an accredited investment fiduciary. And if you know anything about a fiduciary, they are required to put the needs of their clients first before their own. And I think that's an important trait that I've learned over the years, is to put the needs of others first. I know a lot about dealing with difficult situations. If you've watched the stock market lately and it's been down, losing people money is not one of the fun things that is part of my occupation. But I know how to deal with people, and I deal with lots of different people in different backgrounds. Politically, I've worked in several different areas. I was the district chair of Legislative District 40 for over 8 years. I had 27 precincts that I was the chairman of. So during the time of voting and I missed it, whatever it was, thank you, caucus meetings. Boy, I lost that one, but here we go.
I think I'm uniquely qualified because I'm very detail-oriented. I've been to these council meetings. I've been so impressed with you three and the way you're professional, and especially with the mapping. You know, someone proposed to stick with the original map, and it didn't go through. It didn't get seconded. Anyways, then the next proposal was seconded and approved. I just like that, and I would appreciate dealing and being a part of that. I'm also very detail-oriented and have a good memory. I'm from Los Angeles. I married a Utahn, so we're going to celebrate our 28th anniversary next month, and that whole time has been here in Murray. And it's been great, and it's been great having my kids and raise them in a place that's safe. I work for JetBlue, and I was trained as a CRO, a complaint resolution official. And that made me very aware of those with disabilities and what their needs are. And so that's good background training there. I guess I would end with the fact that I'm a hard worker, and I can participate and take part and just be someone you can depend on. And I would, again, love the opportunity. Thanks.
All right. I have the third question. That means you're halfway done. Yay. All right. What do you feel is the most important issue facing Murray City?
It's a great question. So I'm a fourth generation Murrayite, And my great grandfather joined the U.S. military so he wouldn't have to take an English competency test. He was so worried about having to learn English that he thought it would be easier to join the military. And he eventually made his way here through Fort Douglas. I love Murray. It's the heart of the valley. And I want to see my children and my great-grandchildren my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren to be able to live here. And right now they can't. They can't live here. They can't afford a home. I would say growth is the number one issue for Murray. And as I've watched and followed these issues with the multi-use development, particularly multiple unit housing, I'm concerned that we could maybe do it a little better. And I'm not saying you haven't done a great job. I'm just saying we need to really establish a great legacy for our children and our grandchildren. And part of that could be incentivizing some of these builders so that they can build, even if they're building apartments, rather than apartments, let's work toward condominiums so that people are building equity in their real estate and not just making a developer richer or an apartment manager richer, but they're able to build something for themselves. So I think managing the growth and doing it in a smart way is the most important issue for Murray. Thank you.
I have a feeling we'll see a theme tonight on this. But obviously, I think one of the biggest things that I've listened to as I've come to these meetings is going to be high-density housing and growth in Murray and growth in the greater Salt Lake County. And it's how do we balance that to ensure we have the proper infrastructure, the right services, the right roads and water and everything to handle that growth. In District 5, we have RC Willie that will be coming up for a change, and there's been an ask, I believe, or there will be an ask to make it mixed use. And it's going to be how do we evaluate that under the new standards that have rolled out after the moratorium, and are they the right standards? Do we want apartments? Do we want commercial? Do we want condos? What are we looking for? Townhomes. So I think that's the biggest thing that we're going to be facing as a council coming here is the growth. And we have to do it smart. And we have to be realistic that the growth doesn't all fall in one area. It doesn't all fall on one group of people. And we're going to have to share in that. So it's how do we share in that in the best way possible to ensure that those that come after us can afford a home or a townhome or a condo. And they're not just building like we see over on MASH Farms where they're putting in multi-million-dollar homes. And so it's what do we do to ensure that when we do develop and we do grow, that we do it in the smart way and that we invite those up-and-coming people to come back into Murray. So thank you.
I think Gary's right. I think that the minute that you said that question, I think everyone in their minds went growth. I think it's important now because the things he just talked about too with the high density housing, there's a lot of different types and styles of housing that builders can bring into a community. Murray has always been a certain kind of community. And I know we've annexed different parts and we're kind of, and Murray has grown over time, but we're surrounded by all these cities all around us. And so there's a finite amount of land that's going to be used, that's going to be wanted by builders and developers. And moving forward, do we really want the high density is a big hot topic right now because I don't think anybody wants that. Whenever I go shopping up at Smith's, I look at that massive thing behind it. I can't believe, I'm just like, wow. I mean, how many units are here in this small little area? And has it been thought through? Is there with the traffic and with all the things that's going to bring and all the people that's going to bring to it? So I think definitely it's how to use the land that is here in Murray. And I know you want to build the city hall over here to help revitalize those areas, which is definitely important and needed. And there's a lot of different areas in Murray that do need that revitalization. So you want to continue to grow, continue to be that place that people want to come to and move into and live here for sure. But it brings quite a bit of challenges. Another thing I wanted to mention is how do you benefit from the strengths of diverse people from diverse backgrounds? Murray has become more and more diverse over time and especially now. And what do we do now with our refugees and our immigrants that are coming in? How do we include them? How do we benefit from their strengths? How do we make them a part of our community? Because for so long, Murray was a very homogenous community in a very kind of a small town in a big city. So that's definitely, I think, another issue. Thank you.
What's the most important issue facing Murray City? We've had a great city, and we've kind of stabilized our growth. We've got great single family areas. We're growing some other areas, but we've got to look at those areas where we need to infill. That's a big problem. Redevelopment is another. And those things take a lot of, it takes a partnership between the city and the developer to make that come out right. And it takes a little sitting down at the table and arm wrestling, if you will, and trying to come up with the right schemes. And so look back at some of the things that have been done. Some have worked well and some could have worked better. And we have to reevaluate where we've been in the past and make it better as we go into the future. I think one of the big problems we need to do is make sure as we do the future development that it becomes neighborhood compatible. Talk about R.C. Willey, and then we've got a single family neighborhood right next to that needs to be treated with respect as we try to figure out how to work whatever happens in there happen. And that's not only the only place it's going to be up and down the street all the way along. Winchester Estates, what's going to happen with that in the future? I was aboard when that project was designed by a Chicago firm trying to redevelop some land that was part of a smelter project. Developer side, not developing a trailer park, I'm developing an office park. Sometime down the road, it could be an office park, or it might be more different kinds of residential. So we got to be keen on every project as it comes forward and try to do what we can to make this remain and stay steadfast as a great community. Thank you.
Well, to harp on the issue, I think development is the main challenge facing Murray. But one thing that people aren't addressing is we are currently in a drought. We are at a low snowpack. Is this something that's going to continue? Is this something that's just a mere blip? All the projects just put more and more and more and more, but it's not taking into account the other factors that have to come into this. If we have a dwindling water supply, how are we giving water to these new projects? And the other thing to remember is once something's asphalted over, once the green is gone, it doesn't come back. It's turned into another development of some sort. And if you are flying into the city and you look out, the amount of green in the Salt Lake Valley is so diminished. And I think it's a problem for Murray, it's a problem for the Salt Lake Valley, and I think it's going to take a strong group to face that it needs addressing. Yeah, thank you.
I do believe that the most important issue today is the same as it was 10 years ago, or it'll be 10 years from now. And that is, where does Murray City want to be 20 years from now? What does it want to be 20 years from now? Murray's changing, and it's very different. When I moved in here in 1969, the city had a great many farms within its boundaries, open spaces within its boundaries, areas to be developed into subdivisions. Now, it's almost impossible to have any kind of a significant development without changing the use, which already is in place, and without tearing down buildings already in place. That's what happens with a growing city. And we are a growing city, a great city, sit right in the middle of Salt Lake County, and everything happens around us. We need to know where we want to be in 20 years. And I think what this council always has done and will continue to need to do is ask that question. Where do we want to be 20 years from now? So that the planning that we undertake and we pursue will be addressing far enough out that when we make the city the way we want to make it. Got a great master plan in place. Got 13 zones in place. But a master plan is a very changing document. It has to be. Because as we grow, as we change, and there are different needs, that needs to change. That needs to change. I think the answer is, where do we want to be 20 years from now? And what do we need to do as a council in order to promulgate that and make that happen? Thank you.
Ditto. The growth, zoning, green space, Murray City. So I coach my son's football team, and we have one place to practice, one place to play our games, and then we go out and we play Copper Hills, and they've got endless parks and schools to choose from. We've got Riverview. I'd like to see that we need to invest in our kids. We need to continue to invest in the future of our schooling. What are we going to do if RC Willie turns into a giant fire clay? Where are those kids going to go to school? Are we going to have another failing school like Parkside? I hate to single out Parkside, but if you look at their test scores compared to McMillan, there's a huge difference. We need to look at the root cause of these problems and identify what that is and put in the corrective actions. So, as Gary stated, we need to ask ourselves and decide, where do we want to be in 20 years? And we can't lose sight of that. We can't drop the ball. It's not just RC Willie, it's Shopco, Winchester between Tracks and State Street. So as we and then well, somebody else brought up the infrastructure and the green space, or the ability to have the water for all these places. So we need to think about smart problem solving, and not just open up to developers and say, oh yeah, pump in another 600 units of apartments, temporary housing. So anyway, thank you.
Well, the farther it gets down, now it's on. You couldn't hear me before? Really? Doesn't sound much different.
It's not just for everybody here. It's also for the public online.
So traffic has become a big issue. I think water is an issue, just planning in general. A lot has been said about diversity too, and so I'll just mention one thing about diversity. We have a great city council right now with you four ladies on there, but I offer a different set of diversity, and that is someone who's not a female.
Okay, something unique for me that I can offer is that, well, I'm a female, so that's not unique, but I do have experience with a lot of people. I'm from Los Angeles. I lived in Germany. I worked there, and then I served my mission in Uruguay, so I speak Spanish. So I've seen a lot of people in a lot of places, and so when I see Murray, that's why I pointed out how I love Murray and what a community feel it has, and how strong it is as far as schooling and things like that. The schooling is something we would need to be careful for, because obviously redevelopment is huge, but we need to watch out for schools and parents and make sure that they're educated and that they feel included, just so they can hopefully help their children. Especially nowadays when you don't know what's virtual, what's not. I think the growth that Murray needs is, like everybody stated, needs to be future thinking. We need to be thinking, where do we want to be, and how can we set up events, activities, and things that will be inclusive and that will be safe for people to go to, so they can feel like they want to come to Murray, and that's going to be part of the development too, just so we create places where people want to come to Murray for. And I think that would be a good approach. Thanks.
Challenges facing Murray. Well, I can tell you right now, 8 of these people here live over by RC Willie. That's why I think most of us are here. We want to know what's going to happen over there. We want to have kind of a say in what happens over there. Growth is important to us. How it grows. We need to make sure that when we do grow, we grow smart. As it's been pointed out, look at the infrastructure. Do we have traffic control, enough places for the traffic to be there? Do we have enough water, sewer, power? How are we going to get all that stuff there and be able to provide that for our residents? And then just as a neighborhood, Murray's got different areas that are, for single family homes. Some are for multi-level, more family areas. Some are apartments, whatever you want to call them. But there are all these different communities, and they have their purpose, but sometimes they don't have their purpose mixed together. And so I think we need to make sure that as we decide on what we're going to do in these areas, that we do it smart. Again, I think that's going to be the biggest issue for Murray right now in the future is how do we grow and how do we grow smart? And thank you.
I can't disagree with the other applicants indicating that the biggest problem, the biggest challenge facing the city at this time is the growth and the density, those issues related to mixed use. Certainly the folks that are associated with the R.C. Willie property have very reasonable concerns about their neighborhood. In fact, it was such a trying thing that the council, I believe, pulled it off their agenda in December so that they could analyze this and study it further. Certainly that is a very important issue. Another thing that I don't think has been quite addressed tonight is the fact that the commercial entities, the big box stores that are dwindling away and that are being overcome by businesses such as Amazon and some of the mail order companies, we have to consider their needs too. They're commercial entities. They need to have something viable to do with their properties. Certainly the mixed use and the commercial developments associated with some residential developments are an answer, and it's one of the things that they would like to pursue. Point at 53rd is a good example. That's been rezoned. Certainly there's some opportunity there to change some of the structures there to mixed use and for residential properties. So again, I think that community economic development and the RDA, the redevelopment agency, are critical to the needs of the city, and they're going to be viable departments to operate in the near future. Thank you.
So I'm going to continue to beat the growth drum, but I think we need to continue to look at how we're zoning. We've created the CMU and the VMU zones, and I think we need to continue to workshop them and look what's happening there. Right now in those zones, there's not a requirement for low-income housing. It's only subsidized. And if the median home price, you need $100,000 a year to be able to buy a median home, we need to continue to look at that and look at what's needed for requirement there. We need to also continue to look at, do we have enough mixed-use zones? We only have the 2. Do we need to look at others? Do we need to look also at incentivizing what's happening with businesses and to have more commercial space in there? If the goal of the VMU and the CMU zones is to continue to the commercial space and continue to revitalize these areas, just putting apartments in there and losing the commercial space doesn't facilitate that. So we need to continue to look, so we're making sure we're continuing those zones while we grow. But also growth is also bigger than just what's happening in those 2 zones. We can look at the MCC district as also part of what's happening within growth. We have block 1 that's part of it. We have the point at 53rd. We have this property. These are all decisions that are going to come before the council in the coming years that we're going to have to look at and evaluate. So as we grow, we're not just losing what we've had at Murray, but continue to hold on to our history and go forward into the future. Because as we look at this MCC district, that's the way we can continue our roots and continue to hold on to what we believe. But it also branches out even to what's happening with Murray Power. Right now, we're at 40 to 50% of green energy. I'd like us to see us move that into 60%, or even better, to continue to have more green energy while keeping our costs low. So we're not just improving growth at this point in time, but improving growth for future generations too. So it's not just those who are living here, but other generations through green energy.
All right, we are to our last question, and that is, please name 3 qualities a council member should have.
I think the council member should be open-minded, fair, and that they should look at things with the best information that you have available. And I think you should listen to your district constituents, but I don't think you should arrive at with, you should be careful about those pet uses, pet causes that people have. So you need to be open-minded, but do the right things for the right reasons. That's the most important. And one of the things we haven't mentioned much, and I'd like to just say about the city, one of the reasons for their success is they have always hired top-notch staff at every level. And that takes care of our ongoing infrastructure, maintenance, roads, pavements, sidewalks, water, sewer, and power. We've got great social and recreation programs, but they need to be counted for all ages. I'm in that category that now goes over to the senior center and enjoys a lot of the things over there. And they're great programs. We need to keep that up, and as well as the recreation programs for the kids and all through and work the combination stuff that we do with the Murray City education. Arts in the Park, Performing Arts Center, the Murray Theater, those are things that need to be addressed as well. And each of those is a challenge. And the historic preservation, what's really significant? What do we need to save? We've lost a lot of historic things. I don't know how significant they are, but some of them are significant, and we need to continue to move in that vein. I think the city council has to be open-minded, fair, and do the right things for the right reasons. Thank you.
Three things a good council member qualities a good council member should have. To paraphrase Hamilton, talk less, listen more. Be willing to be open to new ideas, different ways of looking at the same problem, because there are more than one way to do it. And third, oh dear, I mean, he had some good ones. Well, I mean, what? Listen to your constituents, be open-minded, and have the greater good in mind. Oh, but that's it.
These are all good people. So the decision you make is going to be the right one. The 3 most important qualifications or qualities. Number 1, a listener. Number 2, showing respect for the people who appear before you, the people with whom you work and deal, and each other on this council. Number 3, the courage to make the hard decision, because all the decisions you're going to make, not all of them are going to be easy. A lot of them are hard, and you found that already, and that's the way that it goes. Anyway, thanks for all you do. Thanks for hearing us here, and a little of what we said has been boring. We recognize that, but it's good to be with you. We all recognize now that the decision you make is going to be this. Who am I going to be most comfortable working with? Who will be the 5th person on this panel that I will feel most comfortable working with in carrying forth with the work that I have to do and the decisions that I have to make? That's really what it comes down to. We all recognize that. Thank you for your time.
I believe, first and foremost, you have to be able to communicate. And communication requires listening and respect and actually really hearing what the other person has to say. Something I learned in Sandler sales training is your client is more likely to like you if you let them talk. So yeah, talk less, listen more. You need to be able to be flexible. You need to understand that there are 5 different point of views a lot of times, and that your way is not necessarily the only way, and there is always the greater good. I think you need to be humble. I think when you need to be able to admit that when you're wrong, and this is a lesson actually my 20-year-old taught me. You need to be able to understand when you are, the difficult choice can often be the right choice, even when that's not your preferred choice. No matter who you select tonight, you've got a winner. You've got somebody great for our community. And again, thank you to everyone for volunteering to come out tonight and apply for this position. Thanks.
I don't know if the three you're looking for is what I have, but I'll tell you what I have. I'm an expressive, analytical that likes to listen to people. And because I love people and because I love talking to people, I like to find out of people. I like to know what their story is. The analytical in me loves the details of people's lives, because the details of people's lives are how you get to know them. That's how you get to know them, to understand them and appreciate them. I don't think I have any enemies. My wife might say different, but as Abraham Lincoln said when he was asked about destroying his enemies, he said, "Do I not destroy my enemies when I make them my friends?" And that's how I feel about it. I think I can work with people. One of the things that I've tried to listen to a lot is Will Rogers said, "Never miss an opportunity to shut up." I try to do that. So I think I'm a good listener. I've learned that over 35 years in listening to my clients, their needs and what they need and how to help them. So I agree with most everybody here. I think you have some great candidates here. No matter who you pick, I think we'll do a great job. So thank you for your time and thank you for all that you do.
I agree. Excuse me. I agree with the communication. Back and forth, because in my mind, everybody has a story. It's always nice. It's always good to know and be curious about people and ask questions and see what's behind their requests. I also think it's important as a council member that you don't have a fixed agenda. Like I mentioned in my application, I'm a state and a county delegate, but that's completely different from being a citizen of Murray. Of course, I have constituents in my precinct, and I do, listen to them. So that's important there. And I think it's important to collaborate. You need to work together to make have the best result be the conclusion of your collaboration. And I think, like I said before, I'm impressed with all of you. And I know that it can be done to collaborate and to communicate with people and not have an agenda. And thanks so much for your time.
Three qualities. I'd have to say, first of all, available. I think a city council member needs to be available to the people in their district. When they have questions, when they have concerns, be willing to listen to them and respond to them. I know it could probably be very taxing. I've heard, as I've worked for the city, I've heard rumors of people calling in and complaining, and sometimes it's, oh, that person again, and stuff. But I think it's important that we are available for those in our district, that we can listen to them and know what they would like. They're the taxpayers. They're the ones who are paying the bill, so to speak, or providing the money so we can do this, provide for our city. And so we need to be able to know what they want and how they want it spent. Another attribute, and I think it's been mentioned, is that we need to be fair. Abraham Lincoln, as he's been quoted a few times here, he said, "When I do good, I feel good. When I do bad, I feel bad." And I think that's what it comes down to. Do we feel good about what we're doing? So I think we need to make sure that what we're doing is for the good of what Murray City wants and the residents want. And then the last thing, I think we just need to be honest. How much more can anybody want from a council member than that they're honest? and everything that they do, everything that they say, they'll do. And that's what I think I can bring to this. Thank you.
Well, everybody's hit on some great ones. You can't argue with honesty and listening. I think listening is probably a critical idea to be able to listen to folks in council meetings, the participants, the residents, certainly the constituents in your district, be able to listen to them, have some crucial conversations with them, ask questions, learn their needs, and try to focus on what's best for the entire community. I think the other thing is a council person needs to be prepared. You need to be reading the materials, prepare yourself, talk to the staff. The staff and the department heads are very well qualified in this city, and if we don't listen to them, we're making a big mistake. And finally, collaboration, that's already been mentioned, but the ability to work together, to work with other members of the council, other members of the city staff, other members of the political community, the county commissions, the legislature. I think those are all critical ideas and critical needs and qualities that a council person should have. Thank you.
I was really hoping the last question would be what I think the role of a city council member is, so I could quote Pam, but I'll go with this instead. The three, Pam said that who knows what you're doing before you get in there. But I think the first thing that we need to do is communication, and it's communication with each other on the council. It's also communication with the executive branch and with the mayor's office, but also with the department heads. There's talking that's going to go on between all the groups and making sure that we're all listening, communicating what our goals are for Murray and what's going on. So I think communication is an essential priority for that. I also think listening is really important, and listening and adapting to what the constituents have to say. They have input, they know what's happening in this area, and they care about Murray. And so listening and not just being held on to one idea, but listening to what they have to do and adapt to it. I think the role of leadership and vision is essential to what's happening at City Council. It's very easy to just sit back and wait for things to come on our desk, to pass the zoning of changes or other things, and just let developers decide what's going to happen instead of being proactive and taking charge of the city. We're Murray, and we need to act like we are Murray and that we're great. And so I think that as we have a vision as a council, we can define that and let everybody know that we're important, and we can act in a way that builds this community.
I would say the three qualities a city council member needs is good communication, a willingness to represent all residents, and the ability to be a bridge builder. As was said, communication isn't just one way. I've seen where legislators have tried to pass an issue and people get all up in arms because they didn't understand an issue, and it really was the responsibility of the legislature to get ahead of it and to explain it to residents instead of just trying to get it passed. I think I've seen with this city council especially, you've been open to having Zoom calls prior to meetings. You're trying to get input. You're trying to tell people about issues and getting their feedback ahead of time. That is such an important trait. And to know, so the constituents know what issues are coming. For a willingness to represent all residents, I think we often have loud voices and quiet voices, or voices we don't hear, those with resources and those who don't have resources. And I loved seeing, for example, that the city took steps this year to increase transportation and improve transportation for all. And finally, being a bridge builder. I know we live in an era of outrage, and it's easy to other people that we disagree with, but often we have to understand. Well, when we try to understand somebody else's point of view, we're all better off. And I have to say, we're all temporary stewards. We have real work ahead and hard decisions, but we have to do it right. Thank you.
First off, I want to thank the council for your time tonight, and really appreciate how deliberative you all are being. As I see you taking notes furiously, so that's great. So the three qualities that come to mind, first and foremost, listener, as has been discussed many times. I think that as Diane and Pam know recently, campaigning is about listening. You go around to doors, you knock on doors, you try to get something in about yourself, but it's not about any of us. It's about the individuals, the citizens, the residents. And so that's the very first and most important thing. Next, I think leader, being a leader. And with that comes communicator, decision maker, being approachable, all those qualities of a leader. And finally, in my time at MX down in Lehigh, we lost our co-founder last December to cancer. He was 34, I think, 34, and he passed away from terminal cancer. And he had a quote that said, "Be passionate to the point of ridicule." And so I think passion is the third quality. We have to be passionate about what we do. We have to jump all in. We have to go at it every day. And if I'm selected, I'll make sure that I do him proud and am passionate to the point of ridicule. So thank you.
I think, like people have already said, number one, approachable, which means you listen and people feel and know that they've been listened to. That it creates an open communication so that there's transparency and they know that we're considering not our own agendas, but what they're providing. It shows how we listen and it shows how we can find the best solutions. I think number two should be having a vision. Vision brings strength and it brings balance. And we can maintain our culture but allow for progress and for growth. Murray has done so many things right, and it's such a desirable place and an example for all the surrounding cities. And so they've done a lot of things right, so to continue that tradition. And I think the number three thing would be to bring heart to the heart of the valley, and so that our residents know that they feel that they've been heard and their issues have been considered. Thank you. Thanks so much for your service.
Now's the time for the vote. Brooke, who is our city recorder, will call each council member by name and they will say the name of the person they vote for. In effect, what that means, at least 8 of you will not go forward, maybe more. Depending upon the vote, we may have a second vote. There's a good chance of that. And then we may also have to draw by lot. But in any event, the first vote will be now with Brooke, and then we'll go from there.
And there's been a request, can we take 5 minutes to review our notes? I think is that appropriate? Yeah?
Oh, thank you. Yes, please.
All right, so we'll.
Yes, please.
Yeah, we can make it 10 so that everybody can actually get up. We'll take a solid 10. We're like teachers, we live here. You don't go.
I was just thinking the same thing. I mean, not you. I actually.
Welcome back. Thank you for giving us that brief break to review our notes. Just want to thank you all again for coming. It is just speaks so highly of District 5 of Murray that this is such an incredibly impossible decision to make. And the person is filling the last 2 years. So, see most of you back in 2 years to run a campaign. So that would be amazing. Are we ready for Brooke to do the, are we ready? We're ready. Okay.
Can I just say I feel like a mom that's trying to pick their favorite kid? This is really, really hard. I was telling Kat. I'm going to go with George E. Hammer.
Before I cast my vote, I really want to take a moment here and say thank you to everyone who's applied. It says a lot about, one, our community here in Murray, but also that what I've always said is we've had a growing concern that we don't listen to constituents. So if you're not elected or not going to join us up here, I want you to continue to be a steward of your community and participate. I think it's important now more than ever that we hear from you. I also think a lot of you, one of the reasons my vote is going to be what it is because I really was looking for an understanding of what we do as a council. I think a lot of you should run for school board. You know, there's a lot of care and passion for the school community, and they need your voice too. A lot of you talked about diversity, and I do want to touch on this. And it's important to talk about diversity, but it's important to have those conversations in all areas, whether it be in development, whether it be on the council, whether it be at school, whether it be in your private homes. We are not new or a service project, and we have been here in the conception of its city. It's not something new. It may be new to a lot of people in this room. It may be weird that I, Rosalba Dominguez, is the first elected official to be a first minority on to this board, but it's not new to our kids, and it's not new to a community of whole. So although I appreciate the conversation of diversity, I also appreciate you continuing those conversations outside of just the acknowledgement. I also was looking for the understanding of what the role of the council and its duties, but also administration. There's a lot to learn in this position, and we need somebody that's ready to come forward and look at what we need to do moving forward. Whether that be understanding the issues already at hand, whether that be understanding budgets, we need somebody already ready to hit the ground running. The other part for me is also the importance of green space and sustainability within the city. So that, with that said, my vote is going to be Gary Harekesi.
I just, again, want to thank you all for participating. We really, really appreciate it. And this is one of the hardest things I've had to do. I had no idea it would be such a difficult decision, but you are all so qualified, and so it's a really important process. And with that, Adam Hawk.
All right. I don't want to belabor it and make you more anxious and wait longer than you need to, but I do just want to say I appreciate how everyone explained who they voted for and how much thought we've put into this. I thought it was important it was someone who understands the issues of the city, hasn't been involved in their community, and passion pushed me over the edge. Gary Harekesi.
Do you want me to explain?
So, yes, will you please explain? Thank you so much.
So, tell me, pronounce your name for me, Mr. Yeah. Harekesi, okay. So, Mr. Harekesi received 2 votes, Mr. Hamer received 1, and Mr. Hawk received 1. So what we will do is we're supposed to get 2 candidates. So we will draw lots between Mr. Hamer and Mr. Hawk to get the second candidate, who will then go for a second vote with Mr. Harekesi. The lot, just so you know, our city recorder has the names of those who will go into the lot, the 2 names, and she will draw one of the names out.
You're doing a great job, Brooke.
They run against.
George E. Hamer.
Okay, now there will be a second vote between Mr. Hamer, Harakasi? Harakasi. Okay, thank you. Okay.
As I stand before, I will stand still. George E. Hammer.
Sorry. My vote will be Gary Harakasi.
Gary Harakasi.
Gary Harakasi. Congratulations. Adjourn. All right, that is the end of the special meeting. Again, thank you so much to everyone. And Mr. Harakasi, it's time to get to work. Please report up front.
Kat, you actually have to pass a resolution
I have
first.
to pass a resolution, so
Sorry,
that's
we're
still
not
happening.
Quite done. And he has to get sworn in.
So we need a motion. Hang on, just like we got to do a resolution we missed. So we have to pass a resolution and a swearing in. Well,
So
I
good
made
to see you.
chaos happen, and that's on me because it's a party. Mr. Critchfield. Yeah. All right, 5-minute recess then, and we'll pick up to the swearing in and the resolution. 5 minutes. Kiss your kids. All right. Let's get to clap, it turns out. We have to pass a resolution, and then we have a swearing in to do, and then we will probably take a tiniest break before City Council, because that is starting at 7. But would someone like to make a motion? It's right here if you want to.
Oh, I would like, do you want to do it, Pam? You got it?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Where am I reading?
5.
I would like to consider a resolution appointing Gary Harakasi as interim Murray City Council member for Council District Number 5. Pursuant to Section 20A-1-510 of the Utah Code to serve until January 2nd of 2024.
I'll second.
Thank you. Brooke?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, everyone. All right, now that we have passed the resolution, I have the paper. We go to the swearing in. So Brooke Smith will take it from here, our city recorder. Let's have you. All right. And with that, our meeting is officially adjourned for real this time. We will start City Council at 7 p.m.
Is it on?